The Chicago skyline glittered beyond Marcus Hayes' corner office, its glass walls reflecting the sterile perfection of legacy prime realty. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, thumbing the gold cufflinks his father had worn the day he'd founded the company. The quarterly report on his desk boasted record profits, glowing client testimonials, and a 98% employee satisfaction rate. Yet the voicemail burning in his phone hissed like a lit fuse. "Your agents are predators. They're gutting our neighborhood." The anonymous caller, a trembling-voiced elderly woman from Bronzeville, had hung up before he could respond. Now Marcus stared at the framed photo on his desk. His father, Samuel Hayes, standing proudly outside their first office in 1985, a black man in a pinstripe suit breaking barriers in a white-dominated industry. Legacy Prime had been built on integrity, or so Marcus had believed. "Sir," his assistant Claire hovered in the doorway, clutching a tablet. "The board is ready." In the boardroom, 7 executives, all white, all over 50, greeted him with polished smiles. Marcus had inherited them when his father died suddenly 3 years prior. They'd praised his visionary youth while vetoing every reform he proposed: diversity hiring, anti-bias training, community reinvestment. "Another stellar quarter, Marcus," boomed Richard Walsh, COO and his father's college roommate. His grin didn't reach his eyes. "The Hayes magic still works, even without your little social experiments." Laughter rippled around the mahogany table. Marcus' jaw tightened, and the discrimination complaint from the Bronzeville listing. Richard waved a dismissive hand. "A misunderstanding. The client preferred a more experienced agent." The lie was smooth rehearsed. Marcus had reviewed the security footage himself. A white agent, Brad Kincaid, laughing as he told a junior colleague, "Those folks don't qualify for luxury properties. Stick them in the South Side rentals." But without proof, the board had closed the case. That night, Marcus paced his penthouse, the city's pulse throbbing beneath him. He replayed the voicemail, the woman's voice cracking. "They lowballed my sister's brownstone. Said it was declining. Now it's a $6 million condo development." His iPhone buzzed, a notification from the company's internal chat. #sales floor channel. Newbie Mark Harris starts Monday. Another diversity hire? Brad Kincaid. Probably. HR's obsessed with filling quotas. "Don't worry, I'll train him." Marcus froze. Mark Harris was the alias he'd used years ago, hustling as a teen to afford college. A plan crystallized reckless and necessary. 3 days later, Mark Harris stood outside Legacy Prime's downtown office, his Gucci suit swapped for a thrift store blazer, his fade haircut hidden under a black beanie. A makeup artist he'd paid in cash had darkened his under eyes and glued on a scruffy goatee. Even his posture was different. Shoulders hunched, the CEO's confidence sanded down to a rookie's nervous energy. The receptionist didn't glance up. "HR's down the hall. Don't touch the coffee maker." In the bullpen, agents in tailored suits barked into headsets. Marcus' training manager, Brad, mid-40s with a golf tan and a Rolex, slung an arm around him. "Welcome to the jungle, Mark. You'll either sink or swim." His gaze lingered on Marcus' faux-ripped shoes. "Let's see if you've got the grit for this." Brad's training was a slapdash tour. Photocopiers, supply closets, a dismissive nod toward the agents of color clustered in cubicles far from the window offices. "Stick with me," Brad winked. "I'll teach you how to really sell." By noon, Marcus watched Brad pressure a retired black teacher into listing her West Loop condo at 20% below market value. "This area's changing," Brad sighed, feigning sympathy. "You want out before the crime spikes again, right?" The woman's hands trembled as she signed. At lunch, Marcus slid into a corner deli, his chest burning. His phone buzzed. Claire, texting about a missed investor call. He deleted it. "Mind if I sit?" Rosa Mendez, a Latina agent he'd passed earlier, stood holding a tray. Her badge read junior agent, but her eyes held a weary sharpness. Up close, he recognized her. Top sales last year, now relegated to cold calls. "Brad's projects never last," she said quietly, nodding at his fake ID badge. "They hire us to check boxes, then bury us in paperwork." She hesitated. You seem different. Marcus' pulse spiked. Just trying to survive. Rosa's smile was bitter. Then keep your head down. This place, it eats idealism for breakfast. As she walked away, Marcus stared at his reflection in the deli window, a stranger staring back. The CEO who'd inherited a throne. The rookie who'd seen its cracks. He pulled out his phone and texted Claire. Cancel all meetings indefinitely. Family emergency. The reckoning began tomorrow. The stench of fresh paint and ambition clung to the luxury loft as Mark followed Brad into his first open house. Sweat prickled beneath his ill-fitting blazer. The West Loop penthouse, all chrome and floor-to-ceiling windows, had been the retired teacher's undervalued property. Now, it was listed at triple the price, branded as a revitalized urban oasis. Watch and learn, Brad muttered, adjusting his tie as affluent couples filed in. His charm flipped on like a switch. Schools? Phenomenal. And the neighborhoods finally attracting the right kind of people. Marcus' gut twisted. He knew the script. Right kind meant white wealthy. When a black couple in designer coats lingered by the marble fireplace, Brad nudged him. Distract them. Push the South Side listings. But they're here for this property, Marcus said, too sharply. Brad's smile tightened. They'll tank the vibe for our serious buyers. He tossed Marcus a binder of priority homes, all in predominantly white neighborhoods. Stick to the plan, or you'll be back selling used cars. Marcus approached the couple, rehearsing platitudes, but the woman cut him off. We'll pass. I know a red line when I see one. Her glare sliced through him as they left. Brad's laugh echoed across the room. Woke tourists. They'll crawl back when they can't get a bid in Lincoln Park. By dusk, the loft sold to a white tech CEO. Brad celebrated with scotch in the empty space, bragging about the art of the pivot. His phone buzzed, a Zillow alert for a Bronzeville brownstone. Estate sale. Owners got dementia. He grinned. Let's go harvest some equity. The brownstone's porch light flickered over Ms. Evelyn Carter, 82, her hands knotted around a photo of her late husband. Brad oozed faux warmth. The market's brutal, but I'll get you top dollar. His offer was 40% below value. My nephew said it's worth more, she whispered. Nephews always overpromise. Brad slid the papers closer. Sign today, and I'll handle the stressful details. Marcus' throat burned. Shouldn't we wait for comps? Brad's heel crushed his toe under the table. Trust me, Mark. You're green. When Ms. Carter faltered, Brad sighed. Fine, but if you list next month, taxes will get your savings. Her pen shook as she signed. Back at the office, Marcus stormed into the men's room, gripping the sink. His reflection wavered, fraud or savior. The door creaked open. You look like you've seen a ghost, Rosa said, leaning against the doorway. She'd changed into a janitor's uniform. What are you? Third job. Daycare's pricey. She eyed his badge. You helped that old lady today. Almost. Marcus froze. Brad's tactics are standard. Rosa's laugh was hollow. They call us neighborhood specialists, code for dumping agents of color in Black and Latino areas. I closed 12 South Side deals last year. My bonus? A Target gift card. She hesitated, then unclipped her phone. A video played Brad and Richard Walsh counting cash in a parking garage. Stumbled on this filming my kid's soccer game. They're skimming commissions, laundering through shell companies. Marcus' pulse roared. Why not expose them and lose my job? My visa. She stepped closer. You've got a hero complex, Mark. It'll get you buried here. At midnight, Marcus hacked the company's server from a library computer, unearthing encrypted files. Spreadsheets revealed millions funneled into offshore accounts. Neighborhood maps were marked with red XS, Bronzeville, Englewood Little Village, labeled undesirable. His father's signature looped across a document approving it all. The screen blurred. Was Dad complicit? His burner phone buzzed, a text from Rosa, meet me. 24th and MLK. Come alone. When he arrived, the lot was deserted. Rosa's phone lay shattered near a dumpster, screen cracked around a photo of her toddler. A black SUV idled down the block. The black SUV peeled away as Marcus sprinted toward Rosa's shattered phone. His fingers trembled as he pried the SIM card from its carcass, the photo of her son's gap-toothed smile still glowing on the cracked screen. A text notification lingered. Unknown number. Should have stayed quiet. He spent the night in a motel off I-90, the SIM card plugged into a burner laptop. Security footage from the parking garage played. Brad and Richard Walsh exchanging stacks of cash with a developer Marcus recognized. Victor Rojas, a mogul recently indicted for bribing city officials. Worse, timestamps showed the meetings began 2 months before his father's death. At dawn, Marcus hacked into his father's archived emails. Keyword, Bronzeville. The first message loaded. From Samuel Hayes to Richard Walsh. Date, March 14th, 2021. Subject, Rojas proposal. Approved, but keep Legacy's name off the shell companies. My son can't know. Marcus vomited into the motel's sink. Legacy Prime's boardroom hummed with smug complacency when Marcus stormed in, unshaven and still wearing Mark's thrift store blazer. Richard Walsh smirked. Rough night, Marcus? You look unwell. Resign. Marcus slammed a USB drive onto the table. Or I release proof you've been laundering Rojas bribes through our Southside sales. Silence. Then Richard chuckled. Your father authorized those deals. Expose us, and you bury his legacy, and the company. Marcus leaned forward, palms flat on the cold mahogany. Dad's dead, and I've renamed every shell company to Walsh Holdings. The blood drained from Richard's face. You have until noon, Marcus said, tossing a folder of forged resignation letters. Sign, or I send the IRS your offshore account numbers. By 11:58 a.m., 6 executives resigned. Richard spat on Marcus' shoes on his way out. You'll regret this? But Brad remained, feet propped on his desk, smirking at Marcus from the bullpen. Heard you're cleaning house. Too bad you can't fire me without cause. Marcus said nothing. He'd saved Brad for last. In his office, he replayed Rosa's video of Brad's parking garage exchange, zooming in on the developer's wrist, a titanium watch with a serpent engraving. The same one he'd seen on the driver of the black SUV. His phone rang. Blocked number. Found your little friend. A mechanized voice hissed. A muffled cry echoed. Rosa, stop digging, or she dies in a dumpster. The line went dead. Marcus sped to Bronzeville, Rosa's SIM card leading him to a condemned church. Spray painted over its boarded doors. Snitches get stitches. Inside, he found her blazer smeared with blood. His phone buzzed a news alert. Legacy Prime CEO linked to Shell Company scandal. Whistleblower alleges Samuel Hayes siphoned millions. The whistleblower was Brad, grinning on camera outside the office. I'm devastated to expose the Hayes family's corruption. But justice must prevail. Marcus' hands shook. Brad had outmaneuvered him, weaponizing his father's emails. At midnight, Marcus broke into his father's locked study, untouched since his death. Behind a false panel in the desk, he found a journal. The final entry, dated the day Samuel died of a heart attack. Richard knows I'm closing the Rojas deal. Threatened to leak everything. If something happens to me, protect Marcus. He's better than this? Beneath it lay a deed. Samuel had secretly bought the Bronzeville brownstones, transferring them to a community land trust. Richard had buried the paperwork. Marcus collapsed into his father's chair, grief and fury colliding. The wall clock ticked toward 1 a.m. A notification flashed, a message from Rosa's number. 24th and MLK. Bring the journal. Alone. The lot was empty, wind howling through chain-link fences. Marcus clutched the journal, Brad's voice slithering from the shadows. Should have stayed a rookie, Mark. Brad emerged, flanked by 2 men in serpent-engraved watches. Give me the journal, and I'll tell you where Rosa is. She's alive? Brad smirked. For now. Marcus lunged, but a taser crackled against his ribs. As he crumpled, Brad knelt, wrenching the journal from his grip. You had to play hero. Now legacy's mine. The last thing Marcus saw was Victor Rojas' black SUV rolling toward him, trunk open. The trunk's stale air reeked of gasoline and iron. Marcus clawed at the carpet, ribs screaming where the taser had struck. The SUV hit a pothole, jolting him against a tire iron. He gripped it, memories flooding back, his father teaching him to change a tire at 12, barking, "Panic dies first." Think, as the SUV slowed, Marcus wedged the iron into the trunk latch and heaved. Metal shrieked. Cold night air rushed in. He rolled onto asphalt, the vehicle skidding to a stop. Two men lunged out, serpent watches glinting. Marcus swung the iron, catching one in the temple. The other pulled a knife, but Marcus bolted into the maze of South Side alleys, blood soaking his sleeve. By dawn, he'd traced Rosa's SIM card to a boarded-up clinic in Englewood. Inside, she lay unconscious on a stained mattress, face battered, fingers broken. A note pinned to her shirt, "Stop now," or "Her kid's next." Marcus' phone buzzed, a CNN alert. Disgraced CEO Marcus Hayes, wanted for questioning in kidnapping of employee Rosa Mendez. Brad's face dominated the screen. Now interim CEO, feigning grief outside Legacy Tower. Marcus exploited his father's empire to traffic properties. We're cooperating fully with the FBI. Marcus commandeered a methadone clinic's landline, dialing Claire. "It's me." She inhaled sharply. "They're monitoring my calls. Brad's purging everyone who knew your father. The board's gone. The Bronzeville deed. Samuel bought those brownstones. It's in his study." Silence. Brad burned the study. Said it was cleansing the rot. Marcus slumped against the wall. The deed, his only proof of Legacy's redemption, was ash. Rosa stirred at dusk, murmuring in Spanish. Marcus drip-fed her water. "Who took you?" "Rojas men. They wanted the video of Brad." Her voice frayed. "I hid a copy. Cloud password, my son's birthday." She convulsed suddenly, eyes rolling back. Marcus Googled her son, Lucas Mendez, for enrolled at Little Angels Daycare. A plan crystallized, reckless, necessary. The daycare security camera was a joke. Marcus disabled it with a rock, rifling through Rosa's locker. Behind a photo of Lucas, a thumb drive glinted. The video, raw, unedited, showed Brad and Rojas plotting Samuel's death. "A heart attack's clean," Rojas smirked, "but accidents, they're louder." Marcus' hands shook. His father hadn't just been complicit, he'd been murdered. He uploaded the video to a burner Twitter account tagged #LegacyLies. Within minutes it trended. Brad's press secretary spun frantically. Deep fake. Hayes' desperate smear campaign. But Marcus wasn't done. He leaked Rojas Shell Company records, exposing Legacy's South Side thefts. Investors began bailing. By midnight, Legacy's stock plunged 40%. Rojas found him at the clinic. "You've got grit, Hayes." The developer tossed a duffel bag of cash onto Rosa's cot. "Take this, disappear. Or I mail Lucas fingers to the Daily News." Marcus lunged, but Rojas men pinned him. "Your choice, money or the kid." The door exploded inward. FBI agents swarmed, guns raised. "Victor Rojas, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and the murder of Samuel Hayes." Behind them stood Claire, holding a stack of subpoenas and Marcus' backup drive. "You forgot," she said coldly to Rojas. Our CFO kept receipts. Handcuffed, Rojas spat at Marcus. "This isn't over." But Marcus was already sprinting to the ambulance loading Rosa. Her pulse flickered on the monitor. A paramedic shook his head. "She needs a surgeon now." As the sirens wailed, Marcus scrolled through #LegacyLies, public opinion splitting like fault lines. Brad's final tweet glowed. Marcus Hayes will answer for his crimes. Tonight. A black sedan swerved behind the ambulance, its driver masked. The black sedan rammed the ambulance, metal screeching as it veered onto the shoulder. Marcus clung to Rosa's gurney, her monitors blaring. "Get us to Mercy Hospital now," he barked at the driver. The sedan revved again, its masked driver grinning in the rearview. "Hold on." The paramedic wrenched the wheel, skidding into a construction zone. The sedan fishtailed, slamming into a barrier. Marcus didn't look back. At mercy, surgeons rushed Rosa into the OR. Marcus, bloodied and hollow-eyed, faced a wall of cameras in the lobby. Reporters shouted, "Did you kill your father? Where's Brad Kincaid?" Claire materialized beside him, thrusting a flash drive into his hand. Rojas flipped on Brad, the FBI's raiding Legacy Tower. Marcus plugged the drive into a hospital laptop. Live footage flooded social media. FBI agents dragging Brad from his office, his screams echoing, "I built this company." But the crowd's roar wasn't for Brad. It was for the evidence scrolling online. Emails, videos, and Samuel Hayes' journal proving he'd tried to sabotage Rojas deals before his murder. The truth went nuclear. Marcus grabbed the hospital PA microphone. Legacy Prime betrayed its founder. But today, we reclaim its soul. He announced Rosa's promotion to CEO, her face flashing on screens, a Latina single mother toppling a corrupt empire. The lobby erupted. A surgeon emerged, solemn. "Ms. Mendez is stable, but she'll lose her left hand." Marcus staggered, guilt of vice. Then his phone buzzed, a photo from an anonymous number. "Lucas, safe at Claire's apartment, building block spelling THXMK." 1 week later, Marcus stood in Legacy's lobby, now papered with foreclosure notices. The board had resigned. The company teetered on bankruptcy. But in the vault, he found his father's last gift, the original Bronzeville deeds, hidden behind a false wall. "You knew I'd come here," Marcus whispered to his father's ghost. At a press conference in Bronzeville, he transferred the deeds to Ms. Evelyn Carter and her neighbors. Legacy's profits built this theft. "Now, its remains belong to you." Rosa joined him on stage, her amputated arm tucked into a sling, voice steel. "We're launching a non-profit, True Legacy. No more red lines, no more predators." Developers and politicians flanked her, pledges soaring. But as cameras flashed, Marcus slipped away. He found Brad in a jail visitation room, orange jumpsuit hanging loose. "Here to gloat?" Brad sneered. Marcus slid a photo across the table. Brad's teenage daughter protesting outside Legacy Tower, holding a sign, "Fire my father." "She's proud of what you've done." Brad's smirk dissolved. "Testify against Rojas," Marcus said, "or she'll learn how you paid her tuition." He left, Brad's guttural "wait" echoing behind him. That night, Marcus knelt at his father's grave, journal in hand. Samuel's final entry glowed under his flashlight. "Legacy isn't a company. It's the lives we change." A cough startled him. Miss Carter stood leaning on a cane, her Bronzeville brownstone pin gleaming. "Your daddy would have hated this," she said. "He loved his secrets. But you knew him. Knew he feared you'd repeat his mistakes." She handed Marcus a letter, postmarked 3 years ago. "For my son, when he's ready." Inside, Samuel's shaky script. "If you're reading this, I failed. But you'll burn the rot to ash. Start the fire." Marcus. Epilogue, 6 months later. The True Legacy ribbon-cutting buzzed with Southside families and press. Rosa, now a prosthetic-clad force of nature, laughed as Lucas chased balloons. Marcus lingered at the back, ignored by the crowd. A teen approached, clutching a business plan. "Mr. Hayes, I'm starting a community land trust. Can you—" Marcus glanced at Rosa, who nodded. "First lesson," he said, steering the teen toward the podium. "Never ask permission to do what's right." As the crowd cheered, Marcus faded into the street, his father's cufflinks left on the podium. The skyline glittered, no longer his to conquer, but theirs to rebuild.